To talk all things related to yesterday's old school RuneScape RuneFest Summit, welcome back to the stage, Mod Ayiza, Mod Kieren, Mod Ed, and Mod Elena!
To hear myself, and now I can hear. Can everyone hear us okay? Amazing, I'm back here again. It's like I never left, even though I definitely did. I ran outside. Okay, just for those of you who are joining us, a couple of ground rules. I have not prepared any questions, so I need you to help me, otherwise I'm screwed. So the rules are, if you can just speak really clearly, really loudly, ask one question at a time. I'm terrible at multitasking, and my memory is even worse, so that's the best chance of getting it answered. And also, there are plenty of seats around. To the left, there's some free in the middle as well. Don't feel like you have to stand up. Go find yourselves a seat, rest your feet. It's a long day. And just as everyone starts to trickle in, let's do a little bit of a icebreaker. Mod Kieren, how's RuneFest been for you so far?
It has been pretty incredible, hasn't it? Like, it's an absolute whirlwind. It's been over 5 years since the last one, and you never quite remember quite what it's like. But there's people from literally all over the world here.
It's wild.
New Zealand, Slovakia, US, people who've never left the country before. It is incredible, honestly. It's mind-blowing that this game means so much to so many people, that they're willing to travel halfway across the world to come to basically a nerd festival.
Yeah, well, it's cool being a nerd these days, so yeah, thank you to everyone who has came out and traveled so far, and regardless of how far you've traveled, thank you all for being here. Mod Ed, how about yourself? What's your highlight of RuneFest so far?
It's been all right, hasn't it? It's not been bad. What's my highlight? Not the socks.
No. You got a bit of a grilling for not having any socks when you went on stage afterwards, didn't you?
To be clear, I still don't have any socks with me, by the way. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but I'm quite happy that we finally got to announce the Blood Moon Rises after all those years of waiting to announce that one. Yeah.
The Mayaki are dead.
Oh no, that's bad. You found your nemesis again.
I better not have been the same person from yesterday. But hang on, actually, well, the person from yesterday that I told off, are they in the room?
He was one of them.
So, I'm sorry for being very, very mean to you, but you did cheer when you weren't meant to cheer.
It's brilliant. Thank you, Ed. And lastly, Elena, how has your RuneFest been so far?
It's been amazing. This is my first one as staff. I've never been to RuneFest as a JMod before. I went in 2019 as a player, and yeah, it's been crazy seeing it from the other side. It's been so many impressions, so many players have come up to me to talk to me about the game that we all love, and yeah, it's just been amazing.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you've all had a good time. Is everyone here having a good time at RuneFest as well? Love that. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's do some questions. I'm going to do a little bit of an order where we go from like right, middle, left. I'll try and get as many of you as I can. I'm really sorry if I don't cover everyone. But yeah, please help me out. So starting out on the right, anyone got any questions for the mod team over here? Your hand was up first instantly. You're so fast. We've got Mod Q coming to you.
Hi, I know you guys, when you were making sailing, you mentioned clearing the black boxes, any unreleased map areas. Does this mean that Menaphos might be released before sailing does?
All right, do you want me to take
Go
that
take
one?
it.
So, set expectations very clearly. No, Menaphos will not be coming before sailing. Like, we really want to do Menaphos. We do have a few other things we're working on at the moment. Obviously, we've got Valamor, we've got Sailing, Blood Moon Rise just announced. We're very, very much hoping that at some point we can come back to a stage at RuneFest and tell you that Menaphos is coming, but I'm afraid it's not quite yet.
You just don't want to sail and find a black square. So it needs a coastline, and it made sense to sort of try and put some of the building blocks like down and map roughly what it might maybe one day look like.
I think it also deserves its own sort of its own development time almost. You don't want sailing to detract from what Menaphos
Yeah,
could
you
potentially
wouldn't,
be.
you wouldn't want to rush it just to say, oh, we got it in just before sailing. Like, rather do it properly.
Yeah.
Also, I know for a fact there's a huge appetite, especially from Mod Ed, around that and any storyline that needs some form of completion. So it will happen at some point, no doubt. And thank you for the question. We'll go from this section here, and right at the back there, with your hand up, we'll grab them.
So I know that RuneFest was delayed for 6 months. Is there anything that you had to rearrange or change in terms of what you announced on Twitch back in September versus what you announced yesterday?
I would have changed everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We did our Winter Summit late last year, so the RuneFest Summit would have probably contained some of those things. I can't quite remember, though. What did we announce last time? The memory is hard.
So, last time,
Would have been Valamor.
We
Part two.
did Valamor.
I don't know.
None of us remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it
definitely
obviously
should
changed
know.
plans a little bit, and we had to adapt. Because normally when we do these things, we're trying to give you a pretty solid idea of what's coming, particularly in the next 6 months, but with a glimpse to like sort of what's beyond that. We'll probably have less details for that sort of thing. But we normally do our summits every 6 months, like twice a year. So that's the sort of horizon we're normally working with quite well. So yeah, it had to pivot it. But obviously, RuneFest was moved with enough notice that it didn't heavily disrupt everything. So we knew we wanted to be back on this stage. Obviously, we'd pivoted to the summit format that we've done on our live streams in the office and everything. But we deserve the big stage. Like, I wanted to use this big screen, come out here, get the developers on here, and actually talk to all of you in person. Like, there's no better experience, really, is there?
No, there truly isn't. You can't replicate it. Before the next question, I'm just going to give a shout out to those who are standing around at the back. If you want, there are plenty of seats still towards the edges if you want to save your feet, especially if you're towards the entrances of the stage, just so that people can come in and out freely. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Please, though, don't leave because of that. Just come and find a seat. And we're going to go to this section over here now, and we'll take a question right from the middle here. I'm going to be super awkward. We'll have to pass it down. Thank you, everyone, for helping out. I don't really want to throw a microphone. It's a bit different than socks.
With the Yama boss coming out on the roadmap, is there any plan to introduce a quest along with it that might tie into what we've seen with A Kingdom Divided, as we did see the Judge of Yama feature in that quest?
So, you will need to complete A Kingdom Divided to fight Yama. We won't be doing a quest with Yama, but it's probably not too spoilery to say that Yama will play a part in future quests in that storyline. So you might get a few little teasers here and there when fighting a boss. Some of the stuff we have planned for him.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, and now from the left-hand side, any questions from there? We have a hand up right at the front, and just right at the front here on the far left.
Hello. You talked about the elemental reworks and the changes you're keeping with change and obviously the old stuff where you're bringing elemental weaknesses in. Are we likely to see any more ways of dealing elemental damage in the future, more than just the base spell book we've got now, particularly for the other combat forms?
Who knows? Potentially. You could, well, maybe not with other combat forms. I think elemental belongs to magic, and we want that to really lean into that. It's by adding elemental weaknesses, it's a real way to try and up the power level of standard magic. And so the elemental spellbook is pretty weak, and this was a way to really try and highlight that and create specific niches, give you different options and that sort of thing. We want to roll it out to more things and so on. Maybe in future there will be bosses that really do heavily rely on their weaknesses and give use cases to elemental spells. But I'm not going to rule out other magic weapons. You have a lot of self-powered weapons. They don't really lean into elemental stuff at the minute. That is an option, but again, it kind of comes with a little bit of fear that we don't want to take away from the actual elemental spellbook itself, because that's what we're trying to get out of it.
Thank you. I was going to say, can I be slightly agree, therefore, and follow up with, are we likely to see slightly, therefore, more powerful elemental staves in the future at a higher level? Because obviously you just go up to the Mystic right now.
no plans, but like, who knows? Like, it totally could.
Thank you.
We've got things like, obviously, like the Kodai one that has water runes that it does, but it's obviously not really focused on just being an elemental stuff.
All right, thank you. We'll go back over to the far right here. Oh, you were really fast. Yeah, great jumper. There we go. You got it. Pass the parcel along. Thank you.
Hi, is there anything further you can tell us at all about Raids 4? For example, the location or the theme of the raid?
You wish. I mean, we said it in the combat panel, like it'll likely be more like a TOB style raid.
Sorry, I'm very biased.
Like more focus on bosses, less other stuff. And we've learned a lot from Tour, what worked, what didn't work. That's going to be front of mind when we come to doing this. As for locations, we have ideas, but like we're not at the point where we've like actually finalized it. And obviously, Winter Summit later this year, I'm sure we'll be telling you a lot more about it.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so from this section here, I can't always go the fastest, even though you are very impressive. I'm going to be really awkward to our microphone holders right at the front here. There's a person directly here. Thank you.
Hi, I wanted to ask you a question. Is there any chance of Completionist Cape coming to the old school game anytime soon?
Hopefully not.
Who wants a comp cape? Who doesn't? So this is, honestly, that was the response I was expecting. It's such a mixed, there's a mixed feelings on it. RuneScape's had difficulty with it. They've had to change the way they've handled comp cape because of the difficulties in the response from their community. We're conscious that we don't want to make it like this negative relationship between new content coming out and people feeling like they've got this burden of having to keep it up to keep their cape and so on. I imagine if we did it, it would be kind of like the max capes, where it's like a cosmetic version of an upgrade to that. You know, you have like the fire version of the max cape and all that sort of thing. Well, you'd have cosmetic completionist cape being like a upgraded max cape, and then you'd have all the equivalents as well. But there's difficulties. We need to work out exactly how to do it, what the system would be, what's included, what isn't included. Like, pets are a completionable thing. You can't expect everyone to get all the pets for the comp cape, so you've got to draw a line somewhere, and it's hard to draw that line, and that's where a lot of the difficulty comes in. But, you know, we've thought about it, and we'll certainly keep thinking about what we can do to try and, like, give completionist players something else to sort of reflect that and show off that achievements. As we do have things like the C-log and so on that lean into that kind of territory, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Great.
There was a really strong game jam pitch that was put together in the last game jam, maybe the one before, by the team. So like me saying, you know, I'm really sorry to my fellow team members on disagreeing with your project. But there's, as Kieren just mentioned, there's been a lot of thought put into it, and I think they have a pretty solid design that makes it work, but even then there are so many considerations. So maybe one day, as a community manager though, it terrifies me thinking about having to deal with the comments around content and what would be completionist. So, and from this side over here, we have, I'll go, just go back a little bit, right there. I see you. That's it, that's the one, you got it.
I just want to say, Sin to the Father is my favorite quest in the game, so I'm very excited about Blood Moon Rises. Can we expect like quest endings similar to like Dragon Slayer 2, or more so like Desert Treasure 2, where there's like repeatable bosses after?
So, in the Blood Moon Rises, as you learned yesterday, we're going to take you to Vampirium. And the hope is that after completing the quest, you'll be able to go back to Vampirium again. It's like a brand new area, and be able to do things there. I can't tell you what those things are yet, partially because we haven't actually 100% decided what those things are yet, but it feels very fitting to me that a quest about vampires with a very challenging confrontation with Loernial Draken himself taking place in it, taking you to this land of Vampirium that is known for how dangerous it is. I think it's probably quite fitting that there will be some PVM activities on Vampirium.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and from the far left, and I'm going to go right in the far corner. There is a hand up. Keep it all the way back. Yep.
Getting the steps in.
Yep. The one person left with the hand. You got it. Make it a good one. That was a long walk.
It might not be that good. A while ago, there was a wilderness blog about the world boss. And there's some good changes there about effort and things. Would you include that in the summer sweep up at all?
That's a good question.
Some of the wilderness changes,
Yeah.
will they be in the summer sweep up?
Correct, yeah.
Not at the minute. There's no plans for that stuff to be included in the summer sweep up. It's got a pretty curated list at the minute. Basically what Mod Rice said on stage yesterday, plus a few little smaller pieces. Other changes, things like that, definitely still on the cards to be considered. We need to do some sort of PvP quality of life poll at some point, and hopefully we'll get around to that later this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you think just recently there was a big rework around Bounty Hunter, PvP, quality of life changes. They're definitely on the forefront of our mind. You just might not see it in the roadmap, but one day you'll be surprised, hopefully at least, with a bunch of changes that can come out. And me personally, I really hope that in the future we'll be able to revisit the idea of Wrathmaw and Sandmaw, and hopefully in a fresh, new, renewed sense, but far into the future, not anytime soon. Okay, and back to the far right over here, and we have in the middle with a blue shirt on.
Hi. Do you ever feel bad about ending a quest line? And would you ever consider reopening a quest line that you've finished?
For me, the ending of a story is it's the most important part. And anyone who came to the narrative talk earlier will have heard me crap on billion-dollar franchise for not ending, and it feels like in this the entertainment seems to be moving towards this format now where everything just keeps going on forever. We never have an ending, and I think an ending is so important. So I'm not going to say never. I should never say never, but I think it's really important to have those definitive endings. This is the conclusion for these characters. I hate this whole, oh, he's back and he's alive again. Why is he back and alive again? Did it make narrative sense? No, it didn't make narrative sense. It's because Disney apparently needs more money. I don't want to do that. For me, it damages the narrative integrity of the thing you're creating. I think the irony is sometimes that watching some of these other companies do it, it's I'm really crapping on this now, but we've started now, we're doing it. So I think it damages the narrative to a point, but I think actually in the long term, I do really question, are they actually going to make more money out of this? Quite often it seems to sometimes kill their brands faster. So for me, it's very important that you have that clear ending. This is what is done with these characters now. I don't want to bring them back again. Revisiting areas and stuff like that, once we're done with Blood Moon Rises, that's the story of Drakan. It's done, it's complete. The story of Amaki, it's done, it's complete. But we can still absolutely tell new stories in Mauritania. Some of those could take place chronologically after the Blood Moon Rises, but some elements of that finale, they need to remain final, I think. As sad as it'll be for me as well to say goodbye to that storyline, because I think it's no secret at this point, we might have been talking about it, is very much one of my favorites, but I think it is really important to have that. This is the end.
You might not be getting a job at Disney anytime soon, but the crowd seems to love you, so you're not going anywhere.
I suppose if I can add to that real quick.
Go ahead,
as well.
sorry.
It almost feels like the player's choices and what they do in the quest and even the impact of the quest, it almost feels less genuine if you kind of pull that whole, oh yeah, he's back by the way.
Yeah, I guess one thing I will say on that as well, and to be very clear, because I have had a few people already mention this, Lawernial Draken, will he be a repeatable boss? And while obviously I'm not going to spoil what happens in the quest, I will say very definitively here that this quest, this is Drakan's quest. This is all about him, and his story will be concluded in this quest. You will not be fighting him again once this quest is done. He will not be appearing after that. This is his story. the boss fight in the quest with him, that will not be a repeatable boss afterwards for these very reasons. I think it will lessen the events of this quest if we let you go back and fight him again.
Amazing. Thank you for the awesome answer. And then from this section over here, and we're going to go on. This is so difficult. Just at the back here, the very back, we have flowers on the head. They look like flowers from here.
Yeah. Pride flower crown.
Amazing. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Speaking of unfinished quest lines, is there any continuation to Elemental Workshop anytime soon? It's abandoned for years.
I hated the first time I completed that quest without quest helper. It was so hard. Unnecessarily so as well.
Is it time for the body? That's what I'm asking.
So, potentially an unpopular opinion. I love Elemental Workshop. There we go. Every single storyline we have in game is such a very straightforward thing. Every single storyline, I want to continue it. I want to take it to its conclusion. None of them, obviously I have my favorites, I have my biases, of course, but none of them are in a place where I'm sort of like, I don't want to do that. Like, they are all valuable, they all offer something to our game. I want to finish them all, it's just finding the time to do them all. But I do very much hope we get to visit all of them.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, and then on the left here, and we'll keep it. Oh, you've already ran forward. Okay, so with the multiple wristbands on the hand, we have a convention attender.
With the number of updates this year coming out, specifically Varlamore, finishing its land area and sailing, exploring the seas, we've got a lot of area expansions. And I'm looking forward to, in the future, some sort of achievement diary updates, reworks. We've got Varlamore sailing. We're more connected than we've been, and it feels like that has never been updated, or at least not for a very long time.
Varlamore needs an achievement diary one day, that's for sure. It won't be coming with the final dawn, but like it is a future update we'll definitely get around to at some stage. It's not like locked in the plans right now, but it's something we'll definitely be looking to do. And who knows what with all of the ocean and the seas, like I'm sure we'll have to at some point with an achievement diary.
I think that felt like the right choice for Kourend, right? Like it wasn't added immediately. The diary came later. You need a good amount of content there before you can really create a full diary, I think.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, from the left-hand side, and I'm going to ask something specific before you all put your hands up. Does anyone have anything they want to ask about sailing? We do. We'll go take a sailing question. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Elena, but I want you speaking more, so let's see what we get.
It's okay.
First of all, just want to say I've tried sailing a little bit and it felt really smooth for how early you are in development. But I just wanted to ask, are you expecting to run any more polls? And would you expect maybe we get sort of stuck in the development cycle hell of people failing polls? Or are we just saying it's coming, all this content in the alpha, it's coming, and we're not polling anymore?
Sailing passed the poll already, so we aren't re-polling sailing. What we will poll is sort of some of the content, more traditional content that you'll get your hands on through sailing. So on a lot of the islands that you are going to visit, on a lot of the places that are out at sea, you might see traditional content. And that might be new types of trees that you can chop down, use the logs to make new planks, use the planks to upgrade your boat, stuff like that. I'd fully expect us to pull all of that. We could add new Slayer bosses, we could add dungeons on these islands. I think it really needs that to feel like it integrates well with the existing game. But obviously, anything that is traditional content, sort of other skills or combat, that needs polling in itself.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Modelight, and I will just say expect a lot of blogs and polls over the course of the next few months, because there's a heck of a lot to get through. So your cooperation with feedback would be much appreciated on that. Okay, and we're going to go back to the far right over here now. Any questions? We've got the one in. Okay, and we have at the front here.
Hello. In the blog about the new Yama boss, you guys detailed the contracts. I was wondering if you could kind of give us an idea of what interpretation that might look like in terms of how you guys would see it. I know you mentioned about the DT2 bosses and how they have the the harder versions of the fight. Is it going to be exactly the same? Is it going to be I'd be interested.
The exact specifics are still actually being worked out because it'll be sort of end of projects. We will work on those and then look at what variations of the fight can you have. What that entirely looks like, as I say, not 100% sure, but the ambition is very similar to the Awakened bosses. We want to have something that you can really step up, get more out of the fights, and have some sort of, whether it ends up being some sort of cosmetic way to flex and show off that you've done them. More details to come.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're back to this section here. I'm cognizant of, I'm trying to just make sure we get a good mix, and I've not hit the middle here. So we're going to go with the middle. It's the second row from the front. Really sorry to Mokhaiotl. And then we pass it all the way down. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved. Appreciate it a lot.
Hi. Thanks very much for your time. I was wondering, what do you consider a measure of success for Sailing's release, and how would that influence your ability to bring further skills into the game?
Really good question.
That is a good question.
Good luck.
I mean, I'd almost look to Kieren for it, but yeah, I mean, with every update, we have to measure it in terms of success, and there are many factors that we look at. We look at the sort of just player interaction numbers, for one. We look at how many players, come back to the game to try it out. We look at what's social media saying, like what are players saying. We'll jump into game and see how players are interacting with it. All of these things kind of help into deciding whether it was successful or not. And ultimately, like, you guys are telling us whether it was or not. And it's the same with every update, really. I think that is pretty much the standard process. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah. It's a good question, because I ask that in interviews, just to see what people think. I think it entirely is going to be based on, do we deliver on what the players want from Sailing? That is the absolute most important goal. We are very cognizant of that. This is a big deal. We're adding a skill. A skill should be well integrated into the wider game, and by being well integrated, it can affect lots of existing metas in ways that people might not like. So we need to make sure we're careful with that stuff. I genuinely think Sailing is going to be the best skill in game. Like, it's not like we all love doing 3,000 laps of RD for agility and all these. It's similar for other skills to some extent. I think Sailing is going to be so fun to actually train. Hopefully, it delivers on that. But ultimately, the community will be the judge. If the community love it, all the business side and KPIs and metrics will speak for themselves. But we'll be looking to see how do players respond, what is their feedback, what do we need to address, and ultimately, honestly, if Sailing launches and there's lots of gripes, we'll be working on fixing them for months to go until it is right.
Yeah, well said. And in terms of like looking at, sorry, I have a random alarm going off. For other skills, I don't really see Sailing being a huge contributor to whether or not we would look at new skills, other than the fact that we've done it now and we've shown it. We have a process in place, and we've clearly shown that it's possible. I personally really like the way that we approached adding Sailing into the game. The pre-Sailing polls, the consultation, going through, setting clearly out what we would do and how we'd interact with players. And I'd really like to see us follow that through for other skills. So if we were to add a new one after Sailing, which will probably be in some time, I would like us to explore it in the same way, where it's not just one option that you have to choose from, that you have a variety that you can look into, and we follow the same path, but with some improvements that we could have made. But at the end of the day, if players are happy, you'll probably tell us that you want a new skill. And hopefully that's the point that we get to, and that's what we're aiming for. So, yeah.
We should have a good indication, I think, sort of like before launch as well. Obviously, people trying it here today is a good indication of like where it's going. This is also why we're doing the public alpha. We want your feedback early so that we still have time to make important changes before it goes out.
Yeah. And I think understandably there's a lot of skepticism around whether sailing will land in the way that players are hoping that it will. But I would like to just hope that there's a bit of confidence in us as a team these days that when things don't go right, as Kieren said, we do spend time fixing them. There are some edge cases where it might just not be worth the effort at the time and we have to put it to the backlog. But typically, especially for the larger projects, even with as recent as the Delph boss, the rewards, they didn't quite land. So we pulled that, we're going to spend some more time and come back. The same will happen with sailing, the same will happen with any other skill, the same will happen with any other update. We just want to make it as good as we can for all of you. So yeah, I'm optimistically positive on it all.
Want to put your hands up if you've tried the alpha?
Okay.
That's actually
That's a
so
lot,
many
yeah.
people.
Okay.
That's cool.
It is a lot.
Thank you for putting your time into it. The feedback really is appreciated.
Yeah. Okay, quickly then, before the next question, put your hand up if you actually scanned the QR code and filled out the survey. Yeah, a lot less of you. If you get a chance, can you head back over, just scan it, and maybe do it on the way home? As long as you're not the one driving, that would be really fantastic. Thank you. We've heard so much good feedback from people in person, but it really helps us be able to quantify it and use that to then share internally as well. And the rest of the team deserve to hear what you've shared with us as well in person. So thank you. And now from this section here, and we will go, we'll go right at the back. And I'm being waved at. The top starts with a brown. Oh, okay, we'll get to you. I'll come to you afterwards. I remember. You're fine.
I have a very specific question. Have you ever considered adding a boss that has an intended mechanic or it's an intended mechanic for the player to eventually die? Like an encounter where that becomes more and more difficult infinitely, like infinitely increasing difficulty of augments, and the player is eventually supposed to die, and then you get the loot regardless.
I can't say I've ever thought about doing exactly that. Because it is a very specific request. You want to die to the boss?
Is it? Okay, yeah, it's still on. I want to test my limits, because whenever you do something like the Colosseum, I like that it's very difficult, but whenever I finish it, I have a feeling that I would have liked for the Soul Heredit fight to go on longer, to the point where it's so difficult that I have to do some Port Khazard level stuff to be able to survive.
Love the reference. You want a boss that gets harder and harder. You can't leave.
Yeah.
And just to see how long you can survive, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Quite possibly then. I mean, maybe. That's a good idea. So.
Thank you. Okay, so from the left-hand side here, questions, and we are going to go with the far back here. Gray, I think it's gray, it might be blue. Give me a little wave. That's it. There we go. We got it. The lighting changes the color of all of your clothing. So I realized earlier my blue shirt was green. So if I'm...
Ayiza! Quick question for Elena. Do you think that we would look to integrate sailing into the diaries that are already in the game?
Into the what, sorry?
Integrate sailing, achievements into the achievement diaries?
Oh, diaries.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Coming back to kind of what we talked about earlier, with the content needing to be fleshed out first, I feel like it would be best to, if we were to add diaries to sailing itself, it would need to be after release, as in we'll need to see the full content out before we can add diaries to it. If you mean adding sailing requirements to existing diaries,
that's it, yeah.
Probably not. It feels strange to me, at least, to retroactively add that, but I don't know if maybe you guys feel differently.
I mean, I personally am of the opinion that the less that changes that is already in the game with sailing's introduction, the better. There are surely going to be some things that we would look to obviously integrate and incorporate, but at least in the offset, sailing should be its own experience, so that if you're not interested straight away in trying out sailing, it shouldn't have a major impact in the way that you play the game currently, which adding in retroactive achievement diaries and you losing the achievement diary cape and then having to do sailing, I think that just adds a little bit of extra friction that doesn't really gain any major benefit at the start that sailing could do without. So I personally would prefer that we avoided that. But in the future, when there's more content, when people are more comfortable with it, absolutely. You know, if we look 5 years from now and sailing is just a standard part of old school, it's not seen as the new skill, it's just what you do, sure, why not? So, okay, I forget that I'm the one getting the questions. I've sat here, so back over to the right. Anyone? Okay, we have one. There we go. Go. Unless I missed someone, I'm sorry if I did.
With the new Guardian Horn, will that be able to buff an Ironman if you're not an Ironman using the horn?
I can't remember what we've said on it, to be honest. Do you know?
Don't look at me.
No, I don't know.
I need Goblin.
I don't think
Where's
we
Goblin?
remember. Was it not in the blog?
Is he out there?
If it wasn't in the blog, then
It just
we
says
might
it
not.
gives the next person 100% accuracy, guaranteed hit.
I would imagine we wouldn't allow an Ironman to gain that boost from a non-Ironman. In that, you know, it doesn't make sense, or from anybody for that matter. And a group Ironman would be able to boost another group Ironman probably, but I don't know for sure, so don't quote me. I've only said it on a big stage.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a note of that, and I'll go chat with the team, and we can get it clarified in the blog either later today or maybe in the week, so check back out. I think they're planning on doing a little bit of an update anyway, just to give some extra info, so yeah, look out for some changes, and I'll make sure to get that clarified. Thank you for asking. And we'll go to this section here, and I'm going to go with... Oh God, you're all pointing, it's like so much bias, so... Yeah, I'm going to go with the in the t-shirt here, the white, and I think you're wearing a Pokemon top. I saw you at the back. It's awesome.
Hello, this is for Mod Ed. So on like mainly Reddit, I know I shouldn't say that, but your abilities for storytelling are almost kind of like AAA level. And I just want to... and I think you're one of the forefront runners for getting rid of Spacebar Simulator for quest helpers. But I just wanted to know what your process is for storytelling and how you hone your skills for a narrative.
People have asked me this sort of thing before, and these questions always slightly terrify because I sort of go, God, what's the answer? I think for me, like, it kind of it's a kind of a cheat answer. There isn't one single answer. Like, I've kind of like often take a different approach depending on the storyline, depending on the type of quest, that sort of thing. So let's take, for example, a quest like the Riveting Tale. The creative process behind creating a quest like that takes a slightly different format to coming up with a quest about vampires, for example. One of them involves a lot more just sat there going, yeah, but what if the frog just died? And the other one is a lot more sitting there brooding like, how can we make this vampire as intimidating as possible? So it really does vary depending on the quest, and I think especially with ones like doing a quest like Blood Moon Rising, a lot of it's so heavily influenced by what has come before. So both in the sense of like the quests that were created before I got to Jarek's, like working on A Taste of Hope, obviously I'm looking a lot at how the previous Mikey quests were made, but then also, especially now that I've done a couple, like looking at what I did on those quests, what I think I did well, what I think I didn't do well, and like trying to refine that process to make each one after that, hopefully, in theory, even better than the last one.
Do you ever work your way backwards from it? Like, as in, like, I know I want to make the player cry, let me kill Bob. Like, is that how it works?
Oh no, you've unleashed something now. Again, it varies a bit from quest to quest, but yeah, I think there definitely is very much, like quite often what will happen is I won't come up with the story like linearly, if that makes sense. Like, okay, so this is the start. Oh, but we definitely need this thing to happen here. Okay, now how do we connect those two things together and make that make sense and things like that? And yeah, quite often, like, there will be, like, I guess, moments, like, there's, like, you have an idea for, like, a moment. This is a thing that is going to happen in this quest. You have no idea how you're going to get to that, but you just, like, suddenly go, oh, we've got something here. So I think a very good example of that is Desert Treasure 2, where the ending of Desert Treasure 2 was written before any other part of the quest. And I was like, there's going to be a moment in this quest at the end where we are finally going to unveil Sliske for the first time, and he's going to reveal that he's been there by your side every step of the way getting to this point. Okay, cool, that's awesome. This is hopefully, you know, I was like, I think we're on something here. This is going to be a really awesome ending. Cool, great, fantastic. Shit, now we have to make a whole bloody quest leading up to that. Okay, right, that's a problem. That does often like sometimes happen. Like, okay, now I've got to write a whole quest that just creates this one moment and makes it pay off and make it make sense. Hopefully it did pay off.
Thank you so much. Now, I believe do you still have the same question? Yeah. Just we'll go back to the one we missed. We got it. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned about the Delve boss rewards getting dropped. Why did you keep bringing something forward and then listening to Reddit, dropping it, and it just kept going back and forwards? And then on top of that, are we going to be getting a Thrall upgrade?
Oh, interesting. So I'm not going to be the best person for those specifics on the Thrall upgrade. I'll cover the first part, and then maybe someone else can help me out there. First of all, I know it looks like it's listening to Reddit because you see us engaging on Reddit, but we take feedback from everywhere, whether it be from surveys, from Discord, from any other social platform as well. We literally try to scour everything, even to YouTube comments, and sometimes we may even delve into the realms of 4chan of all places, because there are players everywhere. Not the nicest of places to be. Thankfully, it all gets sent over to us. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that with this is that there wasn't a clear, very hard indication that quite simply it was good or bad. There was a lot of feedback that we could have potentially made changes for, but then at the same time, there's also equal feedback where players seemed pretty happy with what we were proposing. And I think one of the challenges that we typically face is that we'll have a vision of what the rewards are trying to achieve in our minds, and getting that vision across in the right way to the players can be difficult. So letting you understand what we're trying to achieve, and then we clash. And it's really difficult to get past that point, because once you have your own mind made up, like, we're not going to try and change that, we can't change it, you know, you have your own opinions. So it's in those instances, what do you do? And it's like, okay, we can try and go back to the drawing table now and bring out entirely new rewards, but there is no guarantee that we're going to be in any better situation than we are currently. So what is the harm in us just seeing and adding on a few little tweaks and then going into the polling system? I think, maybe I'm sidetracking a little bit here, but I think as a collective community, and even us internally, we're kind of scared by the polling system and seeing things fail. But we should be okay with things failing, and that should be normalized, because it is a way of us testing. Thank you. It's a great way for us to see what content is good and bad in your eyes and should and shouldn't be added in. So for us, there will become a point in the future, I think, where we can look at the polling system more in that light to really give us that validation that we sometimes need when we are stuck, where it's like the feedback is too mixed, there's no clear indication from any one area on what we should do. So with the Delve boss, basically, when we stuck our foot in the ground, so to speak, which wasn't as bratty as it sounds, that's when we really got a lot of vocal feedback, and everyone rallied behind the same point, and it was very clear. There was no chance for us to, you know, have a bit of ambiguity about it. It was, right, this is the right thing for us to do now. So that's something that we need to work on. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
So do you believe that the rewards for the Delve bosses are now finalized, or do you think there's going to be any more variation?
Oh no, you'll be getting new rewards coming up very soon. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's
so there'll be in the I can't remember the exact timeline, but in the coming weeks you will see new rewards for the Delve boss to go on, give feedback, and then eventually into the polls as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think I'm being told to wrap up. I'm going to be really cheeky and do one more question from the left-hand side here with the RuneFest booklet. Sorry, production.
Yeah, thank you. You have the activity advisor in-game. Currently, it's mainly for questing. Are you thinking of developing it any further to help people avoid bank standing?
So for anyone who doesn't know, the Activity Advisor is a system that was designed mostly for newer players to try and help identify like a sensible quest to choose. It's got like an algorithm behind it that helps recommend which things you should be looking at. In theory, this could absolutely be expanded to like different training methods for different skills, even potentially boss suggestions that match your combat stats and that sort of thing. Realistically, it takes a lot of dev effort, and it's just not been at the top of the priority list. We've had a lot on. We're trying to really focus on delivering like lots of awesome updates, and so things that are improving the game for newer players have not quite been at the top lately.
Okay, so soon TM.
Soon TM.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing is on that is there are mods internally that have put together ideas and designs for how to improve it. Last game jam, in fact, there was a like 20 slide deck that we went through with one of our moderators that's actually working in the data analytics team. So there's an appetite there for it. We're aware of it. We know how beneficial it can be. As Kieren said, it's just a matter of priorities. So
we even have those ideas to use skills and stuff. Like those are on paper. Like they are sort of roughly designed out. Just haven't gone any further forward.
Okay, well that is all we have time for, so I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for joining us and helping with questions. Wonderful to you all. And a huge thank you to the mod team for joining me on stage. You've been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're having a great time. I'm sorry we didn't get to answer every question, but please feel free, if you see us, grab us. We're more than happy to answer anything that we can. Same with the rest of the mod team. No one is a closed book. Everyone's here to answer your questions, so please make sure you do. Thank you again.
Thank you.